I stood there, frozen, gripping the handle of my suitcase so tightly my knuckles turned white. The cool air of Dallas International Airport hummed around me. Announcements blaring, children laughing, travelers rushing past. But my world had just come to a dead stop. "Why didn't you come to the airport yesterday, sweetie?" My wife's voice, soft and syrupy, slithered through the phone, wrapping around my throat like a noose. Yesterday? The word bounced around my head like a ricocheting bullet. The flight was today. I knew it was today. I had the texts to prove it, the itinerary saved on my phone, the confirmation email sitting in my inbox. I had checked and rechecked. I pulled my phone from my ear, my thumb shaking as I scrolled up through our messages. Flight, 2 p.m., Saturday. Don't be late. Today was Saturday. And yet, my wife and her family had left yesterday. Without me. Deliberately. A cold realization settled deep in my stomach, curling like a snake. She lied. Not just a simple mistake. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. A deliberate, calculated betrayal. I glanced around the airport, my vision tunneling. Families embraced, reunited after long trips. Couples held hands, laughing as they checked their boarding passes. Friends excitedly snapped selfies, buzzing with the thrill of their upcoming adventures. And I stood in the middle of it all, alone, humiliated, discarded like an afterthought. A lump rose in my throat, but I swallowed it down, rage bubbling beneath the surface, twisting and coiling tighter with every second. She never wanted me on this trip, and now she had made sure I wasn't. I gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled fury, my car slicing through the evening traffic as I drove home from the airport. The engine hummed beneath me, but my thoughts were louder, roaring, relentless. Laura had lied. She had planned this. Every text, every detail, every carefully chosen word in our conversations had been part of her deception. 6 years. 6 years of marriage, and this was how she treated me? I should have seen the signs. Maybe I had seen them and just ignored them, convincing myself they weren't red flags but just quirks of our marriage. Laura was always the one making plans. She claimed it was easier that way. "You're too busy, Mark. I'll handle the details." And like a fool, I had let her. She loved luxury, and I had been more than willing to provide it. I worked overtime, took on side projects, and budgeted carefully, ensuring she could have the life she wanted. Expensive dinners, designer clothes, 5-star hotels, weekend getaways. Laura wanted them all, and I delivered. I had convinced myself that it was normal, that it was just how relationships worked. She took care of the social side of things, and I took care of the bills. 2 months ago, she had brought up the idea of a family vacation to Hawaii. "It'll be great, babe. You work so hard. You need a break?" I had agreed immediately. God, I had looked forward to it. I had needed that break more than anything. She insisted on handling the bookings. I hadn't thought twice about it. Now, sitting in the car, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing tethering me to reality, I realized the truth. She never wanted me there. I had been nothing more than a wallet, a funding source for her family's trip. A bitter laugh escaped me, dry and humorless. And I had let it happen. The ache in my chest was unbearable. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that our marriage had never really been a partnership. It had always been me giving and her taking. I pulled into our driveway, my hands still shaking as I turned off the engine. The house was quiet, empty, the porch light flickering slightly as if mocking me. I stepped inside and tossed my keys onto the table. My phone buzzed. I already knew who it was before I looked. "Laura, we just landed. The resort is beautiful. Wish you were here." Wish I was there? A sharp, hollow feeling spread through my chest. She wanted me to believe this was a mistake, that it was an innocent mix-up. But I wasn't that stupid. Then, as if the universe wanted to drive the knife in deeper, another message came in. This time, it wasn't from Laura. It was from her sister, Angela. "Family vacation begins. Missing you, Mark." Face blowing a kiss. Attached was a photo. There they were, Laura, her parents, her sister, lounging by the resort pool with drinks in hand, laughing, celebrating, enjoying the trip I had paid for. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring at the edges. Every ounce of trust one had left in my wife crumbled into dust. They had planned this together. They had done this on purpose. I could almost hear them laughing about it. Hear Angela's smug voice telling Laura, "He'll get over it. He always does." Not this time. I set my phone down, exhaling slowly, forcing my heartbeat to slow. If they thought I was going to sit here, sulking, waiting for Laura to come home and spin her lies, they were wrong. I had sacrificed everything for this marriage. My time, my money, my energy, and what had I gotten in return? Deception, humiliation, betrayal. My chest burned with anger, but beneath it, something else stirred. Clarity. For the first time in years, I saw things for what they were. And I was done. I walked to my desk, flipped open my laptop, and pulled up my bank records. The numbers stared back at me, cold and undeniable. In the last 2 years alone, I had spent over $60,000 on Laura and her family. Vacations, shopping sprees, dinners, weekend getaways, luxury items she had claimed she needed. Every penny had come from me, and I was about to shut that down. My hands moved swiftly, fueled by righteous fury. First, I called the bank and removed Laura's access to my credit cards. Then, I canceled the additional card she had under my name. Next, I logged into our joint savings account and transferred every single dollar into a new account under my name alone. By the time I was done, the bank of Mark was officially closed. I leaned back in my chair, breathing hard, my heart pounding. It was the first step, the first real step in taking my life back. Laura might think she had one. She might think I would just swallow this betrayal, accept it, and move on like I always had. But she was wrong, because she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet house. No sound of Laura moving around in the kitchen, no smell of coffee brewing, no faint humming of her favorite morning playlist. It was eerie how much I had grown used to her presence, even in ways I never really thought about. But now, with the weight of betrayal pressing into my chest, the silence felt like a blessing. I sat up in bed, staring at the ceiling for a moment, replaying everything that had happened. The phone call, the text messages, the photos from the trip I was never meant to be on. Then, my eyes flicked to my phone. And sure enough, she had texted me again. "Good morning, babe. Hope you're doing okay. We're heading out for a boat tour today. Miss you. Miss me." The words made my stomach churn with something between anger and disgust. She had lied, manipulated, excluded me, and now she had the audacity to act as if nothing was wrong. I clicked my phone off and set it down. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of a reply. I had bigger things to focus on. Rolling out of bed, I grabbed my laptop from the desk and settled into the chair. I had already started taking control of my finances the night before, but there was still work to do. I opened my accounts again, scanning through every transaction, making a mental list of what had to change. Step 1. Cutting off her access completely. The credit cards were already handled, but I went a step further. I called my bank again and flagged all my accounts, ensuring no new charges could be made without my approval. Step 2. Canceling all unnecessary expenses. I went through our subscriptions, streaming services, beauty boxes, luxury gym memberships, anything that only she used. Canceled. Every single one. Step 3. Closing the last joint account. Laura had a personal checking account, but there was one joint account she still had partial access to. Not anymore. I transferred the remaining funds into my new private account and closed it permanently. By the time I finished, Laura had no financial ties to me. No more safety net. No more free ride. And I felt good. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking back control of my life. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed again. I picked it up, expecting another text from Laura, but it wasn't her. It was Angela, Laura's sister, the woman who had grinned into the camera in that vacation photo, drink in hand, laughing at the husband they had left behind. Her message was simple. "Hey Mark, hope you're good. Laura told me you canceled her credit card. Can you fix that? She's having trouble booking spa treatments." I stared at the screen, stunned. I had known Laura was entitled, but this? This was another level. She had barely been gone for one day, and she was already trying to spend my money again? I gritted my teeth, my pulse pounding. Angela had no idea that I had seen through all of it. The fake concern, the fake love, the fake marriage. And she still thought I was some gullible fool who would keep funding their nonsense. I took a deep breath and typed back, "Tell Laura to use her own money." Then I blocked Angela's number. I wasn't playing these games anymore. By the time the sun had set, I had gone the entire day without responding to Laura's texts. And I could feel it. The shift. She must have realized something was off. Because at exactly 7:45 p.m., my phone rang. Not a text. Not a casual message. A call. For a second, I debated answering. But no. I let it ring. Then another call came in. And another. Then a voicemail. I took my time before listening to it, letting her stew for a while before finally pressing play. Her voice was light, too light. "Hey babe, just checking in. I tried using my card today, and there seems to be an issue. Maybe there's a glitch? Call me back when you get this." A glitch. I almost laughed. Then, 3 minutes later, another voicemail. This time, her voice was sharper. "Mark, I don't know what's going on, but I really need to talk to you. Call me." No fake sweetness this time. I set my phone down and waited because I knew what was coming next. At exactly 9 p.m., another voicemail came through. This time, her voice had changed. The forced sweetness was gone. The confidence was gone. She sounded nervous. "Mark, I don't know what you did, but my cards aren't working, and I can't access the savings account. Call me back right now." I exhaled, staring at my phone, letting the satisfaction settle in my chest. She was feeling it now. The reality of consequences. For 6 years, she had drained me financially, treated me like an ATM, taken advantage of my generosity. And for 6 years, I had let her. But now, she was cut off. Completely. And she was terrified. An hour and a half later, I was sitting on the couch, sipping whiskey, when the final voicemail came through. And this one was different. There was no charm, no excuses, no fake concern, just pure, unfiltered anger. "What the hell did you do, Mark? You locked me out of everything. You're being ridiculous. This is our money. You don't get to just take it all." A pause. Then, a sharp exhale before she snapped. "You better fix this, or I swear to God, you'll regret it." I smirked, setting my drink down. Oh, Laura. She still thought she was in control. She still thought she had power over me. But she didn't realize something crucial. For the first time in years, I was finally free. And I wasn't fixing a damn thing. The next morning, I woke up to the sun bleeding through the blinds, casting a golden glow over the room. But there was no warmth in me. I had slept like a baby, despite Laura's desperate voicemails the night before. No tossing and turning, no overthinking, no feeling like I had to fix anything. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't a man weighed down by someone else's expectations. I was a man who had finally cut the leash. I checked my phone, and sure enough, more messages had piled up overnight. Laura had spiraled. First, she tried a different approach. "Babe, I don't know what's going on, but I think someone hacked our accounts. My cards still aren't working, and the bank is saying I don't have access to the savings. Can you look into it? I'm really stressed out. I just want to enjoy this trip with my family." She was still trying to play dumb, like I hadn't just flipped the entire game on her. Then, an hour later, "Mark, I just talked to the bank. You did this. Are you serious? What is wrong with you?" The anger had started creeping in. I smirked and scrolled down. Then came the bargaining. "Listen, babe, I get it. You're upset. I should have double-checked the flight info, and I'm really sorry about that. I swear it wasn't intentional. But why are you punishing me like this? Just unlock the accounts, and we can talk when I get back. Please." Pathetic. Then, finally, the last message she had sent just 30 minutes ago. A full meltdown. "You selfish bastard. Do you have any idea what you just did? I'm out here with no money. My family is pissed at me. My mom had to cover my spa day, and she's making me feel like a child. This is humiliating. You better fix this now." I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, the irony. She was humiliated? She had left me at the airport, lied to my face, and gone on a trip I paid for. And now, because she was forced to feel the consequences, she wanted to cry about humiliation? She hadn't even apologized for excluding me. She wasn't sorry she left me behind. She was sorry that it backfired. And I felt nothing. No guilt. No hesitation. Nothing. I got up, made a cup of coffee, and sat on the couch, feeling the peace of a man who had finally stopped being a fool, cutting the final strings. By mid-morning, I decided to take it one step further. If she thought this was bad, she hadn't seen anything yet. I pulled out my laptop, logged into my accounts, and got to work. Step 1. Closing the last joint bills. I canceled the utilities under my name. The house was mine anyway, so there was no reason she should still be linked to the payments. Step 2. Her phone bill. For years, I had paid for her phone plan. Guess what? Not anymore. I called the provider and removed her from my account, switching my plan to a single line. No more free rides. Step 3. The car. Laura drove a brand new SUV, one that I had leased under my name. She had always said, "It's basically mine since I'm the one who drives it the most." Cool. She wanted to act like it was hers? Then she could deal with the reality of paying for it. I called the dealership and had the lease transferred fully into her name. That meant monthly payments, insurance, and maintenance, all on her. By the time I was done, I had officially removed myself from every financial tie we had. Laura was on her own. The first call from her mother. Right on cue, my phone rang. Not Laura this time. Her mother. I let it ring. Then another call. Then a voicemail. I waited a few minutes before playing it, sipping my coffee like it was a damn movie. "Mark, honey, it's Joyce. I just heard about what's happening and I have to say, I'm really disappointed in you. Laura is devastated. You need to be more understanding. She didn't mean to leave you out. It was a simple mistake. You're her husband. Why would you do something so cruel to her? Please, just fix this and talk to her like an adult." I shook my head, staring at the phone in disbelief. Cruel? I was the cruel one? I had spent 6 years breaking my back to fund their luxury lifestyle, and the moment I refused to be their ATM, suddenly, I was the bad guy? I sighed and put the phone down. I wasn't explaining myself to anyone. They all thought I was weak. A man who would keep rolling over, who would keep throwing money at problems, who would keep letting Laura and her family walk all over me. Not anymore. The last straw. At exactly 3 p.m., I got another call. This time, from Laura. I answered. Silence for a moment. Then, her voice, shaky, desperate. "Mark, please. Can we talk?" I let the silence stretch, then finally said, "I'm listening. I get it. Okay? I messed up. But this is too much. You've cut me off from everything. I can't even call people without Wi-Fi because you shut off my phone plan. Do you really hate me that much?" I exhaled, leaning back in my chair. "No, Laura. I don't hate you." She sounded relieved. Then I continued. "But I'm done being your idiot." A sharp intake of breath. "I want a divorce." Dead silence. Then she laughed. A forced, shaky laugh. "Come on, Mark. You're not serious." I was. I had never been more serious about anything in my life. "I've already talked to a lawyer. I'm done. When you get back, pack your things. You're moving out." The panic in her voice was instant. Wait, Mark. Let's just talk about this when I get back, okay? Let's not do anything rash." "Laura," I cut her off, my voice calm. "Enjoy the rest of your trip." Then I hung up, blocked her number. And for the first time in 6 years, I felt truly, completely free. The moment I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the shaky, temporary relief of dodging an argument. It was real. A deep, grounding certainty that I had done the right thing. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't wondering if I was overreacting. For the first time in my marriage, I had taken back control, and it felt damn good. I sat back in my chair, rolling my shoulders, letting the tension ease out of me. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Not from Laura this time. Her father. I sighed, already knowing exactly how this conversation would go. I debated ignoring it, but a part of me was curious. So I answered. Mark, son, Richard's voice came through, deep and fatherly, like he was the head of some wise old council instead of the man whose daughter had just scammed me out of thousands. I heard about the situation. I want to talk to you man to man. I didn't respond, just let him talk. Listen, I understand you're upset. Laura should have communicated better. But don't you think you're being a little impulsive? I scoffed. Impulse? Richard, your daughter stole from me. She took a trip with the money I earned, left me standing in an airport like a fool, and when I stopped letting her use me, she threw a tantrum. That's not bad communication. That's calculated betrayal. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. Mark, son, let's be reasonable here. You're married. Marriage is about working through things, not just cutting someone off the moment things get tough. Don't you think a divorce is extreme? I let out a low chuckle, rubbing my temple. Extreme? Richard, tell me something. If Laura had been the one paying for everything, and I had left her behind at an airport while taking a luxury trip, what would you tell her? Another pause. Then, well, that's different. You're the man. You're supposed to take care of your wife. And there it was. I wasn't a husband to them. I was a provider. A walking paycheck. It was never about love, never about partnership. I was just the idiot who kept the lifestyle running. I laughed again, but this time, there was no amusement in it. Richard, let me make something clear. I was more than willing to take care of my wife. I worked my ass off to make sure she had the life she wanted. But this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. And I won't be married to a woman who thinks I'm nothing more than a bank account. He sighed again, his voice taking on that forced patience people use when they think they can talk you down. You're just angry, Mark. Cool off. Take a few days. Think about what you're doing. You're gonna regret this when you calm down. I shook my head. No, Richard. The only thing I regret is not waking up sooner. And then I hung up. The flood of desperation. It didn't take long before my phone started blowing up. Laura, her sister, her mother. Even a few of our mutual friends started sending messages, all with the same theme. Mark, come on. You guys are perfect together. Just talk it out. Laura is devastated. She's crying her eyes out. Do you really want to throw away 6 years of marriage? Dude, I don't know what happened, but Laura said you're overreacting. Just hear her out. Overreacting. That word made my blood boil. How many times had I let my feelings take a back seat? How many times had I sucked it up and ignored the red flags? How many times had I told myself, just let it go, Mark. It's not worth the fight. But now that Laura was facing the fallout of her own choices, suddenly I was the one being too emotional? I turned my phone off and tossed it onto the couch. Let them panic. Let them beg. I had made my decision. Taking back my life. Over the next few hours, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat down and started making plans for my future. Not our future. Not Laura's dream life. Mine. I pulled up my financials and started really looking at them. Not just checking the numbers to see if I could afford another expensive dinner or weekend getaway. No. I looked at them like a man who was reclaiming his damn life. For 6 years, my money had gone toward her dreams. Now, it was going toward mine. I started researching places I wanted to visit. Solo trips. Experiences I had never taken because I had always been too busy funding Laura's desires. I looked up hobbies I had dropped over the years, things I had once loved but had abandoned because they didn't fit into Laura's world. And most importantly, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Because while Laura was out in Hawaii, drinking overpriced cocktails on my dime, I was making sure that when she got back, she wouldn't have a damn thing left to take from me. The breaking point. By the time the evening rolled around, my phone was back on, sitting on the table next to me. Buzzing. Vibrating. Relentless. And then, a final voicemail from Laura. I let it sit for a moment before pressing play. Her voice came through the speaker, shaking. Not angry this time. Scared. Mark, please. I'm sorry. Okay? I know I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this, but I was just trying to have a good time with my family. I never meant to hurt you. Can we just talk? I don't want to lose you. I stared at the phone. It was too late. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. I deleted the voicemail. Then, without hesitation, I blocked her number. And as I leaned back, sipping my drink, letting the quiet settle over me, I realized something. For the first time in 6 years, I was truly, completely free. The moment I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. It wasn't the shaky, temporary relief of dodging an argument. It was real. A deep, grounding certainty that I had done the right thing. I wasn't second-guessing myself. I wasn't wondering if I was overreacting. For the first time in my marriage, I had taken back control, and it felt damn good. I sat back in my chair, rolling my shoulders, letting the tension ease out of me. Then, like clockwork, my phone buzzed again. Not from Laura this time. Her father. I sighed, already knowing exactly how this conversation would go. I debated ignoring it, but a part of me was curious. So I answered. "Mark, son," Richard's voice came through, deep and fatherly, like he was the head of some wise old council instead of the man whose daughter had just scammed me out of thousands. "I heard about the situation. I want to talk to you man to man." I didn't respond, just let him talk. "Listen, I understand you're upset. Laura should have communicated better. But don't you think you're being a little impulsive?" I scoffed. "Impulse? Richard, your daughter stole from me. She took a trip with the money I earned, left me standing in an airport like a fool, and when I stopped letting her use me, she threw a tantrum. That's not bad communication. That's calculated betrayal." Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. "Mark, son, let's be reasonable here. You're married. Marriage is about working through things, not just cutting someone off the moment things get tough. Don't you think a divorce is extreme?" I let out a low chuckle, rubbing my temple. "Extreme? Richard, tell me something. If Laura had been the one paying for everything, and I had left her behind at an airport while taking a luxury trip, what would you tell her?" Another pause. Then, "Well, that's different. You're the man. You're supposed to take care of your wife." And there it was. I wasn't a husband to them. I was a provider. A walking paycheck. It was never about love, never about partnership. I was just the idiot who kept the lifestyle running. I laughed again, but this time, there was no amusement in it. "Richard, let me make something clear. I was more than willing to take care of my wife. I worked my ass off to make sure she had the life she wanted. But this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a betrayal. And I won't be married to a woman who thinks I'm nothing more than a bank account." He sighed again, his voice taking on that forced patience people use when they think they can talk you down. "You're just angry, Mark. Cool off. Take a few days. Think about what you're doing. You're gonna regret this when you calm down." I shook my head. "No, Richard. The only thing I regret is not waking up sooner." And then I hung up. The flood of desperation. It didn't take long before my phone started blowing up. Laura, her sister, her mother. Even a few of our mutual friends started sending messages, all with the same theme. "Mark, come on. You guys are perfect together. Just talk it out." Laura is devastated. She's crying her eyes out. "Do you really want to throw away 6 years of marriage?" "Dude, I don't know what happened, but Laura said you're overreacting. Just hear her out." Overreacting. That word made my blood boil. How many times had I let my feelings take a back seat? How many times had I sucked it up and ignored the red flags? How many times had I told myself, "Just let it go, Mark. It's not worth the fight." But now that Laura was facing the fallout of her own choices, suddenly I was the one being too emotional. I turned my phone off and tossed it onto the couch. Let them panic. Let them beg. I had made my decision. Taking back my life. Over the next few hours, I did something I hadn't done in years. I sat down and started making plans for my future. Not our future. Not Laura's dream life. Mine. I pulled up my financials and started really looking at them. Not just checking the numbers to see if I could afford another expensive dinner or weekend getaway. No. I looked at them like a man who was reclaiming his damn life. For 6 years, my money had gone toward her dreams. Now, it was going toward mine. I started researching places I wanted to visit. Solo trips. Experiences I had never taken because I had always been too busy funding Laura's desires. I looked up hobbies I had dropped over the years. Things I had once loved but had abandoned because they didn't fit into Laura's world. And most importantly, I booked a consultation with a lawyer. Because while Laura was out in Hawaii, drinking overpriced cocktails on my dime, I was making sure that when she got back, she wouldn't have a damn thing left to take from me. The breaking point. By the time the evening rolled around, my phone was back on, sitting on the table next to me. Buzzing, vibrating, relentless. And then, a final voicemail from Laura. I let it sit for a moment before pressing play. Her voice came through the speaker, shaking. Not angry this time. Scared. Mark, please. I'm sorry. Okay? I know I screwed up. I shouldn't have done this. But I was just trying to have a good time with my family. I never meant to hurt you. Can we just talk? I don't want to lose you. I stared at the phone. It was too late. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. I deleted the voicemail. Then, without hesitation, I blocked her number. And as I leaned back, sipping my drink, letting the quiet settle over me, I realized something. For the first time in 6 years, I was truly, completely free. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter. Like a weight I hadn't even realized I'd been carrying had finally been lifted. For 6 years, I had been running in circles, trying to make Laura happy, trying to meet her never-ending expectations, trying to be enough. And in one weekend, I had finally stopped running. I stretched, exhaling deeply, letting the silence of my home settle around me. It was a different kind of silence than before. Not empty, not lonely, just peaceful. I glanced at my phone, expecting the usual barrage of missed calls and messages. But for the first time in days, nothing. No texts, no voicemails, nothing. A smirk pulled at my lips. So that's where we were now. The panic phase was over. Now came the guilt trip. I could already hear the conversations happening behind the scenes. Just ignore him for a while, Laura. He'll crack. He's just angry. Give him space, and he'll come crawling back. Mark's always been the reasonable one. He'll come to his senses eventually. They still thought I was the same idiot I had been for 6 years. The man who had ignored every red flag. The man who had accepted being used, disrespected, and discarded. The man who had funded Laura's life without ever asking for anything in return. They were waiting for me to be the one to reach out, to apologize, to beg, to fix it. But this time, I wasn't fixing a damn thing. Cleaning house. I got up, made coffee, and stood in the kitchen, looking around. For the first time, I really saw my house. My house. Not ours. Mine. For years, Laura had filled it with things she loved. Decorations I never liked, expensive furniture she picked out, stacks of shopping bags from stores I'd never set foot in. Everything was catered to her taste, her wants. And now that I was looking at it through fresh eyes, I realized I didn't like any of it. So, I made a decision. I spent the next few hours cleaning. Not just the normal kind of cleaning, real cleaning, the kind of cleaning that erases someone from your life. I grabbed a trash bag and started going through the house, picking up anything that screamed Laura. The useless decorative pillows she had insisted on buying? Gone. The overpriced candles she never actually lit? Gone. The ridiculous wall art she swore made the house feel classy? Gone. By the time I was done, the house felt different. Lighter. Freer. Like I had finally made room for myself. I took a deep breath, standing in the middle of my newly reclaimed space. And for the first time in years, I felt at home. The first sign of regret. Later that evening, I was sitting on the couch, watching a game, when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. But I already knew who it was. Laura. She had gone silent all day, but clearly, she had reached the point where ignoring me wasn't working. So now she was trying a new angle. The message was short. I drove by the house today. It looks different. Did you throw my things away? I stared at the screen. She wasn't mad. She wasn't accusing me of being petty. She was shocked, because she never expected me to actually move on. I thought about responding, but instead, I just deleted the message. She didn't deserve a response. She didn't deserve anything from me. The lawyer's call. The next morning, my phone rang. I answered without checking the ID, expecting another attempt from Laura or her family. But instead, A calm, professional voice came through. Mr. Carter? This is Daniel Roberts. I just finished reviewing your case. We're ready to proceed with the divorce paperwork whenever you are. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Perfect. What's the next step? He explained the process, filing the paperwork, serving Laura, dividing assets. But the best part? I had been smart. The house was in my name. The majority of the accounts were in my name. Laura had no legal claim to anything besides the car, which, thanks to my adjustments, was now her financial burden. She had walked into this marriage with nothing, and now she was walking out with even less. I set up a meeting with the lawyer for later in the week, then hung up, feeling an unfamiliar sensation settle over me. Relief. Not doubt. Not guilt. Not second-guessing. Just pure relief. Laura's final attempt. By the time evening rolled around, I had expected Laura to reach out again. And sure enough, right as the sun was setting, a call. Not from an unknown number this time. It was her. I let it ring, debating whether I should even pick up. But something in me wanted to hear what she had to say. So I answered. Mark. Her voice was small, weak, like she had finally run out of options. Can we talk? I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Talk about what, Laura? A pause. Then, in the softest voice I had ever heard from her. Us. Our marriage. I don't want to lose you. I almost laughed. Now she cared? Now that the money was gone? Now that she had no safety net? Now that she was actually feeling what it was like to be left behind? I didn't respond right away. I let her sit in the silence, let her feel what it was like to not be answered right away, to not be prioritized, to not have me bend over backward for her. And then I finally said, Laura, the best thing you ever did for me was leaving me at that airport. I could hear her inhale sharply. Please, Mark, let's just meet and talk. Just once. I closed my eyes, already knowing my answer. No, Laura, we're done. Then I hung up, blocked her number, and just like that, I was free. The next morning, I woke up to a sky so clear it almost felt like a sign. Like the universe was confirming what I already knew. I had made the right decision. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up with anxiety sitting heavy on my chest. There was no need to check my phone first thing. No need to brace myself for whatever drama Laura had stirred up overnight, because she was no longer my problem. I got up, stretched, and took my time making breakfast. Something simple, just eggs and toast. The kind of breakfast Laura used to scoff at because it wasn't Instagram-worthy. I never realized how much of my life had been dictated by her preferences, even something as small as breakfast. But now I was eating what I wanted, in a house that finally felt like mine, with no one around to make me feel like I wasn't enough. And it was perfect. The unexpected visitor. I was halfway through my coffee when there was a knock at the door. A hard, urgent knock. I already knew who it was before I even stood up. I took my time walking to the door, exhaling as I grabbed the handle. Then I pulled it open. And there she was. Laura. She looked different. Not the perfectly polished version of her I was used to. No flawless makeup, no expensive outfit carefully chosen to make a statement. She looked stressed, tired, even a little lost. Good. For the first time, she was feeling what I had felt for years. I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. What do you want, Laura? She hesitated, biting her lip. Can I come in? I didn't move, didn't step aside. No. Her eyes flickered with something. Annoyance? Frustration? Maybe even desperation. Mark, please. We need to talk. I sighed, shaking my head. No, Laura. You need to talk. I already said everything I needed to say. She exhaled sharply, running a hand through her hair. Can we just sit somewhere? Anywhere? She swallowed hard. I don't want this to end like this. I almost laughed at that. Like this? I repeated, my voice cool. Laura, the way this is ending, you chose this. The second you left me standing in that airport like an idiot while you and your family took a trip on my dime, you ended this marriage. She looked down, shifting on her feet. I know. I messed up. I arched a brow. You messed up? That's what you're calling it. Her eyes snapped up, and I saw the first flash of anger. Mark, I already said I'm sorry. What else do you want from me? There it was. The real Laura. She wasn't here because she regretted what she had done. She was here because she regretted the consequences. I straightened, dropping my arms from my chest. I don't want anything from you, Laura. That's the point. She blinked, looking almost thrown, like she hadn't expected that, like she thought there was still something left to manipulate. I stepped back, gripping the edge of the door. Go home, Laura. She shook her head quickly. Mark, please, don't do this. I know I hurt you, but we've been together for 6 years. Are you really willing to throw all that away? I let out a slow breath. Laura, I'm not throwing anything away. You did that for both of us the moment you decided I wasn't worth the truth. The moment you decided I was just a wallet instead of a husband. Her mouth opened, but I didn't wait for whatever excuse she was about to spit out. I shut the door. Firm. Final. Done. Breaking the cycle. After that, the silence in my house felt different. Not just peaceful. Stronger. Because for the first time, I had actually chosen myself. Laura had spent years making me feel like I had to earn love, like I had to keep proving I was worthy of her attention, her affection, her approval. But love wasn't supposed to be something you earned. It was supposed to be given freely. And Laura? She had never given me anything. She had only ever taken. The lawyer's meeting. The next day, I sat across from my lawyer, Daniel, as he finalized the last of the paperwork. So, just to confirm, he said, sliding the last document toward me, you want to file for divorce under irreconcilable differences? I smirked. That's a polite way to put it. He chuckled, nodding. Fair enough. Given the financial records we've gathered, she won't be able to claim spousal support. And since the house is in your name, she won't get a dime from the sale. If she tries to contest it, she'll be in for a fight she won't win. I exhaled, a weight lifting off my chest. Perfect. Let's file it. He nodded and started gathering the documents. Once she's served, she'll have 30 days to respond. If she doesn't contest it, we can finalize everything within a few months. I nodded, standing up and shaking his hand. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate everything. He gave me a knowing look. You're doing the right thing, Mark. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. Laura's last desperate move. That night, as I sat on my couch, I got a text from an unknown number. I sighed, already knowing who it was. Mark, I just got the divorce papers. Please, can we talk? Just one last time. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then, I deleted it. No response. No hesitation. No regret. I leaned back, a small smirk tugging at my lips. For 6 years, Laura had controlled everything. But now, I was the one calling the shots. The morning after I ignored Laura's last text, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in years, light. Like I had finally unshackled myself from a burden I didn't even realize had been weighing me down. I stretched, exhaling slowly, feeling a calm that had been foreign to me for too long. No more waking up to Laura's endless complaints. No more checking my phone first thing in the morning only to see a list of demands disguised as requests. For the first time in 6 years, my life was mine again. I grabbed a cup of coffee and stepped out onto the back patio. The morning air was crisp, the sun rising lazily over the horizon. It felt different now, more vibrant, more real. And yet, despite the peace, a small part of me wondered, would Laura finally give up? Or was she planning one last desperate move? The final attempt. I got my answer later that afternoon. I had just finished lunch when my phone rang. Blocked number. I sighed, already knowing exactly who it was. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but something in me was curious. So I answered. Mark. Her voice was quiet, careful. I know you don't want to hear from me, but can we just talk? I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. We don't have anything left to talk about, Laura. Silence. Then, her voice broke just slightly. I don't want a divorce. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Of course, she had fought me, ignored me, insulted me, used me. But now that the reality of losing me was settling in, she was suddenly realizing what she had thrown away. I stayed quiet, waiting for her to continue. I know I messed up, Mark. I know I hurt you. But isn't marriage supposed to be about forgiveness? About second chances? I let out a humorless chuckle. Laura, if this was your first betrayal, maybe. But this? This was the final straw in a long list of lies, manipulation, and selfishness. You don't get to play the victim now. She inhaled sharply, like I had slapped her. I wasn't. She stopped herself, then sighed. I don't know how to do this without you, Mark. There it was. The real reason she was fighting this. Not because she loved me. Not because she regretted what she had done. But because she didn't know how to function without me paying for everything. I clenched my jaw, letting the truth settle between us before finally responding. You should have thought about that before you made me nothing more than your personal ATM. Her breath hitched, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered the way she had left me at that airport. The way she had laughed by the pool, drinking cocktails on my dime, while I stood humiliated in a crowded terminal. And just like that, the last of my sympathy died. Goodbye, Laura. And then, I hung up. The divorce goes public. Over the next few days, things were quiet. Too quiet. Laura had gone silent. No more calls, no more texts. At first, I thought she had finally accepted reality. Then, I started getting messages. From friends. From coworkers. From mutual acquaintances. Dude, Laura posted some long sob story about you leaving her. Says she's heartbroken and blindsided. Is everything okay? Bro, I know it's none of my business, but Laura's been telling everyone you're divorcing her over a simple misunderstanding. That true? Mark, I just saw Laura's post. I don't know what to believe, but if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Of course, she wasn't done yet. She couldn't control me anymore, so she was trying to control the narrative. I opened my phone, scrolling through social media until I found it. A long, emotional post from Laura. A photo of us on our wedding day, captioned, 6 years of love, laughter, and building a life together. Gone in the blink of an eye. I never imagined I'd be waking up alone, wondering where it all went wrong. I miss you, Mark. I wish you'd just talk to me. Below it, hundreds of comments. Some supportive, some confused, and some furious. Wait, what happened? You guys were perfect together. OMG, Mark is leaving you? What did he do? I don't understand. How does someone just walk away after 6 years? I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on my phone. She was painting herself as the heartbroken victim. And I was the heartless husband who had abandoned her for no reason. Setting the record straight. I took a deep breath, debating if I should ignore it. But no, this was my story too, and I wasn't letting her rewrite it. So I typed, for everyone reaching out, let me make something clear. I didn't walk away from my marriage. I walked away from being used, lied to, and taken advantage of for 6 years. Laura didn't lose me. She threw me away when she left me standing in an airport, alone, while she took a trip I paid for. One she never planned on including me in. If you want to know where it all went wrong, ask her. Then, I hit post. And waited. The fallout. It didn't take long before the comments section exploded. People who had blindly supported Laura started asking questions. People who had doubted her started connecting the dots. And Laura? She went silent. Because there was nothing left for her to say. The truth was out. Her manipulation, her greed, her betrayal. All of it laid bare for the world to see. And just like that, Laura finally realized something. She had lost. Not just me. Not just the marriage. But the lie she had built.